Loud. And then the other thing I'm turning on is I'm turning on closed captioning, because what that will give us a actual transcript of this conversation. So I can go back later, and Anne can go back later, and we can take our notes out of this if we're not fast enough on the draw as we're writing. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for accommodating that we've got a special date today, but it didn't make sense to us to have the hub captain meeting and then the exercise, and then wait a whole month to do, 2 months to do the debrief. So I am going to we're going to do more. I'm going to do a poll. I didn't write up the poll, but I think it's kind of going to be helpful for us if you can put up your hand if you were at the exercise, or, you know, I'm almost going, I recognize everybody. Let's not do that. So there's not so many people that I can't keep track. So that's good. You know, what we wanted to make sure is those who were at the exercise who still had something that they wanted to get into the after action thoughts had an opportunity before we all spun off into problem solving and stuff. So that's really our priority tonight, is to capture the last of the stuff that we didn't see from before. So, and this is always tricky to see if I can get it. So do you guys see the double trouble? Okay. So part of this we're going to whiz through because it's really just a recap and some pictures that you get to look at. And then we'll slow down in about 6 slides when we get to the what really happened. We're going to give you a little bit of picture behind the scenes. We had goals that were set, and it's important to review those to see if we think we hit what we set out to do. Just one sheet of miscellaneous things that don't fit into anything else. Anne and I had some general observations, you know, just kind of our intuitive feel of it. Then we'll take all the information from the hot washes and each roll and roll them together, and then figure out what we're going to do next. So here's what we threw at you. We had 500 scripts, and over here is me trying to organize them into the different shifts and bags that got distributed. We did put in some rumors. This was the first time you guys were going to have to deal with what rumors are happening. We had a fantastic turnout at Maple Leaf. There was like 61 people at the first shift safety briefing, which we know included some of the actors because so many hub captains came out to be actors, which was stupendous. We had about half that at Jefferson. We had less hub captains show up. And in fact, we just barely had enough to field a shift at a time. And so thank you all the hub captains who had to stay around and play a second shift when you weren't expecting it. We had firefighters. You can see over in the corner the picture of them, that we had set aside one of our usual scripts of I'm a firefighter here. And when they showed up, because we heard they were coming to Jefferson, I handed it to them and said, do this. And so they walked around the hub and got the information that they were supposed to have. And we had hearing impaired participants, and they were there for 2 reasons. One was to help give us some feedback about what a hub is like for someone who is hearing impaired. And the other is they just were actors. We just sprang those on the Jefferson folks, and they got to use those universal communication cards. So it worked really well. We put out at both of the exercises, we collected feedback, and some of the, you know, not everybody gave us a feedback form, but you'll see that information. And then Anne got only so far at her exercise in collecting what stations people went to by having the hub people turn the script over and, you know, initial they were at this station. And we improved the process on the second one where the actors had to go back and then tell us what stations they went through. So you'll see how that evaluation fed into how we think that the hub performed. And remember, this was only a drill. You know, we were not so worried if people got lost in it. Our overall goal, and so I'm going to have to move some stuff around here. So, okay, to concentrate everybody together. And, you know, we really wish we could have done one drill, but we were trying to accommodate everybody's schedule so everybody could participate. I don't think we'll ever do a double exercise again because, you know, it was just a lot of work for 2 people, and it didn't have to be like that. We saw some on the job training. We didn't see formal, like people pointing at roll cards and training their replacement. at Jefferson. I didn't get to see it because we just didn't have anybody to train to replace. So that was kind of maybe we didn't meet that goal. We saw lots of people sharing different ways to do things. You know, people would be talking at their station and they would change stuff, and it got better and better as the shifts went along. And then one of our best practices we want to make sure we do is a real good, thorough debrief so we get to what we want to work on to improve. So here's our goals. Boy, I got to keep moving this around here. Hang on. There we go. Goal one was so that we had all the areas up and running and trying to practice them. And we saw some bottlenecks. We saw some broken communications. We're going to cover that in the role by role. And we did not get all our positions done. We just had to drop the visiting nurse at Jefferson for lack of people. And the reunification officer just felt like it was going to be too complex to put into this massive of an exercise. So we didn't quite get everything, but of all the positions that are important to a hub, we got them all in. This is the goal that was around the on-the-job training replacement. And so yes, that did happen at Maple Leaf, not so much at Jefferson. And when you guys are giving us feedback, tell us if you actually use the hub books or the hub roll card. We really just didn't see anybody using them. So we'd like your feedback on that. This was where we actually did pretty good. Legible handwriting, I actually was going to look for a sample to say, oh, and here's the worst one I found. And they're really not bad. You can read them all from the pile of paper I had from Jefferson. And I think it seemed pretty good at Maple Leaf. I don't know.
Mine looked surprisingly good. I was really impressed.
Yep. So
good job, guys.
I think all we need to say is keep up the legible handwriting. We don't have to keep focusing on it. We had some communication issues where we normally go, we know what inject is supposed to come in and where it should go and what we should see on the information boards at the end. We had some design of the drill and execution problems at Maple Leaf that were not any of your faults. Jefferson, we got those fixed and Jefferson worked really well. So our system seems to work when you don't have artificial problems to it. And then talking about the effective matching needs and resources, which is really the heart of the business too, is like helping your neighbors. We went back through the scripts, and of the 452 that we used between the two drills, you know, a good half of them had the routing captured on the back, and both at Ann's and mine exercises, 75 to 77% were routed effectively. And that means where if it said, you know, I have this issue and we turn it over, we go, yep, that makes perfect sense where they sent them. And so about, 25 to 30%, we went, that person got bounced around a little bit more than we went, or that's a surprise that they sent them there. So I've set those aside. Whenever we do any of our, longer debriefs, we can talk about what people were thinking when they sent them that way. And the other really good thing is when we have people from the public, and at Jefferson, we had almost very few hub actors. So all that feedback was from people not used to what the hub should do. We got really good feedback from them about how they felt. And none of them said, oh, this is just crazy. It's not going to work. And then of the people who answered us, would you show up at your hub to help in a real disaster? 41% said absolutely, and 30% said if possible. And the rest just didn't even either see that line or didn't know what it meant. Fourth goal was to ensure the safety briefings were done and modeled. Ann did a fabulous safety briefing, which I tried to model and then forgot to do it for the second shift. So we didn't get it. I did not get it all the way done, but that was an important goal for us to lock in so everybody sees what that is and knows how to do that. So this was just kind of the miscellaneous things. I wanted to let you guys all know who showed up, because it wasn't until I looked at the pictures where I went, oh, there was the Phi Beta Sigma guys that we invited. So we had this list of folks. I'm not going to bother to read it, but we had OEM come by and Department of Neighborhoods, which are really strong partners for us in our grants and are doing our work of tying in with the emergency community. So that was great. Then we had all these people who came as actors, which was fantastic. And then we had one crosscut reporter who came And she had intended to do a story about something else, and she's switching it to the hubs. So I'm going to pause here. Did anybody see anybody else that we should capture as, good partners to keep on with us?
At Jefferson, there was somebody who identified himself as having been from a media organization, local media blogging organization called Ken. His name was Samuel. I just wrote him. I thought you had invited him, so I didn't get more details than that.
Oh, I know those are part of the Rainier Valley Greeters. I know who that is. Yeah. And they do Rainier High School does a radio program. So they're kind of tied in with that, but I'll write that down. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Margaret.
We had a Girl Scout leader from Renton. She said she was going to try and bring some more girls the second to Jefferson. I wasn't there, so I don't know. She was thrilled. She does emergency preparedness for public health, and she did it at Children's before. And she said she walked in at Maple Leaf and said, "This is exactly the way it's supposed to look." She was very impressed.
Wow.
That's good to hear.
Nice.
We had, I know some of the scouts at Maple Leaf came down from north of Seattle, and we had scouts from Maple Leaf show up at Jefferson, but they were Boy Scouts. I don't remember seeing any girls. I'd say 70% of our actors at Jefferson were kids for some reason. It was really interesting. The soccer field, they had games going on, and when they had breaks, kids would come over and do a bunch of runs through the hub and then go away and tell other kids about it. So,
Cindy, did you see that group of 3 girls who sort of traveled around? I don't know if they're Native American or Hispanic. I didn't really ask. I think there may have been Hispanic. That was the girls. Those were 3 of the Girl Scouts.
Oh, they were good. They were kind of older. That's good.
Yes, they're older. They were getting their emergency preparedness badges. And she told them after they went through it that, guess what? In our community, you may be doing this work.
That's great. Anybody else got anything? Okay, there we go. So I'm going to let Anne talk to the general big takeaways, and I'll supplement. This gives me a chance to catch up on where I'm writing here.
So medical nursing were new roles, lots of confusion over those. I think mostly people didn't realize we had actors in them. That's kind of the feedback I got, was they just were not, nobody was aware of that they were there, A, and then B, what they could do. So I'm sorry, Cindy, do you want me to stop and talk about these or
well, no, I think
these roles?
That one is going to come up in the hot wash, just the confusion. So we're writing these down, big takeaways, because we can sure see that there's action that's going to come out of these. So these are just kind of the top notes for you. Oops. And then the next one.
A lot of people talked about the difference between things and people, and how the resources tent and the volunteer tent overlapped, and people got really confused, and folks weren't sure where to send them, and folks weren't sure they were in the same line. And then again, medical made it more confusing because medical supplies and medical volunteers. Yeah.
We tried at Jefferson. We tried not to do many things different between the two, but at Jefferson, I tried to give a clearer, here's medical and everything medical, whether it's things or people are in here. And it's just really hard to say, but this generator is only for medical things, and figure out where it really should go. So it's tough. And so we definitely heard from the volunteer folks, they'd like a workshop on this. Yeah.
Yeah, volunteer coordinators want to work on that process. This was a good one. I heard this a lot in Maple Leaf, where stuff came into the information area and was posted there, but it kind of died there. It went there to die. So, my first instinct was, well, you need to leave your tent and go to the information area and find out what's going on. But then I got pushback from my medical officer husband, who said, "Oh no, I was too busy. Information needs to needs to spread that information out. So that's something that the group needs to decide how we're going to do that. But yeah, all information apparently went to die at the information tent.
And we, at Jefferson, Maple Leaf was set outwards, facing outwards, so that people didn't have to walk through the muddy, fields so that they could stay on the sidewalk. At Jefferson, we were able to turn around and look at each other, but we still had some of the same things. You could not see all the way across the field to see what was being written over there in information. So then the last, these were the topics.
Yeah.
And then the last thing.
And then the rumors, oh my gosh, you guys did really, really well. And I don't know if you'd even, understand a rumor if you saw it, but one of the ones was, can my dog predict earthquakes? I've heard that the next earthquake is going to be the worst one, that we haven't, these are pre-shocks and we haven't had the worst one yet. When are the FEMA trailers arriving? All that kind of stuff. And basically everybody just sent them to the information tent, go there, or the educator sometimes.
Educator, yeah. Educator got a good, we need to put in dogs barking creates earthquakes in the educator book.
Yeah.
So those were kind
nice
of our general takeaways that we got out of the hot wash. Just the system works pretty good, but it can be really confusing and you can lose information. That's really kind of the big lesson. So when we do after actions, what we did in the field was we really talked about what didn't work well, because we were just trying to go, what should we tweak off for the next shift? Normally you collect what worked well, what didn't work well, and what should get improved. But since we focused on that one, then today we can collect the information on the other two. And if there isn't anything that already if there isn't anything already caught for the middle one, bring that up. And I think when we get through what should be improved, let's not do the solution making today, although we seem to have plenty of time. It only took 20 minutes to get into the meat of the stuff. And so we just need to manage ourselves because we've got about 9 roles to walk through. Gosh, there was something I wanted to say here. Any questions while my brain tries to bring up what that was? I guess I'm going to insert it later when I remember it. So we'll start with, and then I've got this problem again. I'm making you guys all go away so I can see the whole screen again. So this was the hub managers. And by the way, Anne had organized a photographer and a videographer. You've seen the one little clip that the guy did from the Maple Leaf. Each of these I tried to get a picture from on the left-hand side is Maple Leaf. On the right-hand side is Jefferson. When you see something listed, the first two, it goes first shift Maple Leaf, second shift Maple Leaf, first shift Jefferson, second shift Jefferson. So the bottom two are Jefferson, the top two are Maple Leaf. And I can see sometimes where it says, hey, it got much better. And, oh, I know that's what it was. So those hot washes turned out to be really invaluable because the hot wash told everybody what wasn't working. So the next shift could go, remember to do something different. And so I think that is, probably one of the things we need to look at with the hub manager. I know it's in the role thing saying you should do a briefing with your group. Well, we inserted the hot wash instead of the briefing, but that definitely seems like a practice where you can catch some of the little hiccups that are appearing. Okay, Anne, I can see that there's a chat comment. Is there anything we need?
No, it's
I was
Matt
just sharing
today.
my photos.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, link to the photos.
So this is hub manager. I'm gonna, not read them to you. Is there anything anybody? I know the hub managers gave us input, but is there anything else that we need to capture about the hub manager? What worked well? Anything?
Cindy, can I ask a question about the last one about the taking down addresses versus SMS?
Because we don't, we never took down addresses because for a long time we wanted to make sure people understood we weren't going to go to their address and hand deliver the whatever it was they were looking for. And then so what we said, well, what can we collect? And it was SMS because we thought as communication could we could at least start SMSing people. But when we found in this exercise, if you were going to tell people go to Betty's house to collect the brownies, you had to make sure the address got in there somewhere. So this was a question about why don't you have an address block instead of or along with the SMS? And are we really kidding ourselves by taking down the SMS?
Yeah, is there also instructions to hub staff or reporters in general that they should return to get updates on their issues rather than thinking that you'll go to them?
Well, that in theory, that's what we tell them, you know, come back every hour. And there's a place on them that says availability, like I will come back every hour on the forms, like the volunteer form says that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So of course my pen decides to run out. Okay. So hub manager, the question was resolve the, any other, what worked well, anybody else? That's a hard one to do. There's a telephone number 6543. Did you have something?
Yeah, hi Cindy, that's Ann Vaughn. I was really going to make a couple of observations. They aren't specifically about what went well, but I'll make one while I'm here. We didn't practice this idea of debriefing the next person in our role. Like we talked about it, but for instance, I didn't get debriefed and I wasn't required to debrief who would have been my successor. And I think that would have been a valuable exercise for me as a piece of it. So anyway, that's one. Another, well, I'll just wait. I have some other things to say that are about what would you do differently.
Okay, so any other worked well or didn't work well, and then we'll get to what's improved. And this is hard for folks because it was like sometimes you never even saw your hub manager. So what should be improved, Ann? Go ahead while you're, you know, it's hard for you to toggle on and off on a phone.
Yeah, no problem. No, I'm just putting it on mute actually. No problem at all. As the hub manager, as I'm floating around, I didn't always have a sense of what was going on. I sort of flitted, you know, I went to one place and another. I would have liked to have had a better sense of what's going on at the hub, and I'm not exactly sure how I would have done that. Like maybe go to the information board and inform myself about what's happening with the local roadies or the condition of the buildings or, you know, things like that, general information. And then go over to maybe to the resources area and say, what are you getting a lot of requests for and what problems are you having? I didn't insert myself. I was more observing rather than inserting myself with each of those areas. And I think that would have been more beneficial to the hub manager to sort of feel aware or informed about the general state of things. Okay,
good comment. Wait, did you get any requests for situation awareness from the city?
Got a couple of saw it on two different shifts. There's what is the room? You should be prepared for the possibility of earthquakes and landslides. We want you to think about moving right away. I saw that one come up twice. Is that the sort of thing you mean?
Did you see one that said, we want to know how much cell service is available in your neighborhood, or we want to know how much damage is in your neighborhood?
I did see the one about assessing damages.
Yeah, so,
you know,
so those are
one.
intended to drive you around and figure out how am I going to get this information. So we'll do better at putting more of those in.
Can I comment on that?
Oh, well, yeah.
Let Ann finish and then Erica.
Okay.
You know, I did take that and handle it differently. I just went over to the volunteer area and asked if there were people that'd be willing to go out and assign them to various blocks with the volunteer coordinator and ask them to come back and provide the information, which we then forwarded on to the radio person. So
okay,
we did it, but we didn't do it by way of collecting around in other areas in the hub.
Well, no, that's legit. But did you also go over to the info booth and go, how many bridges do I have reported down or anything like that?
No, but the request was buildings. So
okay, got it.
No, I didn't.
Okay, Erica?
Yeah, just on that one. That one came in while I was captain, but it came in really late. So basically, I got that like 15 minutes before our shift was over. I don't know if it got injected earlier and it just took too long to get to me, but by the time I got that, so basically it was too late for me I was telling volunteers to wrap up for a shift change. So I was never able to actually try to act on that one and had to debrief the next person saying, I got this, you'll have to act on this immediately. So I think for the drills is to make sure something like that gets inserted a little earlier so that, and I don't know why it got to me late.
No, I mean, it's actually good practice that you would have had to say, I got this, the city is waiting for this to come from this hub, whether, you know, whether it's me or you, one of us needs to get this information back.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of testing the hub captain or the hub manager's ability to act on that, then it would have made more sense for me to get it earlier. But handling it in the real world of if we were testing the passing off of duties in the debrief, then it did test that.
Yep. Well, we're not as scientific as we knew what we were testing. I mean, you might have thought it was going to come in early in the drill and then it didn't. So you never know. So, all right. We'll go ahead and go on unless anybody else, Melissa or Gabrielle, have anything else for hub manager.
Can I add something at this time?
Well, I went Melissa and I heard two people. So, but Catherine popped up. Melissa or Gabrielle, did you either have something? Gabrielle has to leave right away.
No, I'll stay on for another couple minutes, but I don't have anything else to share at this point. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Gabby.
Melissa?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I hadn't really thought before about what worked well. And I think for me, what worked well was going around to the different tents and noticing patterns and like trying to fix them in real time. Like when something bottlenecked or when it didn't seem to be working, like making an adjustment like on the fly rather than letting it go on. And the tent managers were really great about like communicating with me about that. So I felt like that really worked well when I was there.
Great, thank you. Catherine?
Yes, sorry, just quickly. I think it would be helpful for the hub manager for when the radio people arrive to have a meeting with each other straight away, just to be clear about how the process is going to work, because the process at Maple Leaf was different from the process at Jefferson, how the messages will be going between the hub and the ACS radio post. And the other, like, that would also clear up some issues we had at the second exercise where we weren't sure what the name of the hub was, and it changed like back and forth several times during the exercise. So just sort of fundamentals about, you know, who are we, what are we doing, how are we going to speak to each other?
Yep. Yeah, the changes between the two were because of the input we got from you on the first one. So that's why it was done second. And Jefferson is not actually a hub. So I don't blame the radio guys for going, I don't know what we are. So, all right. I'm going to go on to the next one unless anybody else has got a hub manager one. I got tie in with the radio folks. That's a good one. So greeters. So we had some good pictures of the greeters. They were really fantastic people because everybody got the first actor showed up and everybody in these pictures looked at me with big eyes when the first actor showed up with a script, because it was, all of them were the like crazy ones at the beginning. It was not an easy one. So you guys did really good. What, Ann?
Next slide.
I'm on
We're
greeter.
still on hub manager.
Okay, I changed it to greeter. What do you guys see?
Anybody see it?
I'm still seeing hub manager.
Yeah, we're just seeing hub
I see hub manager.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe stop sharing and then reshare.
Yep. How about now?
No.
No change. No, you might. Do you have a different screen that you're sharing?
Nope, I didn't do anything other than advance the screen. So hang on. Okay, part of the problem is I had to shrink you guys so far and now I can't get you up. Oh man.
Okay, now we see greeter.
We can see it now.
But it's
Just
not
in
full
the-
screened.
Yeah. So if you want to go back to slideshow.
I don't even have the slideshow on my screen anymore. So that I don't know what to punch.
Just the slideshow button on PowerPoint.
There we go. No, I was looking at something completely different. So
Yeah.
Oh,
now
I think
are
you just shared the PowerPoint app then.
Okay, what are you guys seeing?
We're seeing PowerPoint with the extra slides on the side. So it's not in slideshow right now.
Yeah, it's with the editor mode.
Well,
I
it's
think
in
that's the screen that
slideshow
you
on my
shared.
screen. So
Yeah, you might need to reshare and just share the.
I would love to, but I cannot get to my toolbar.
We can mostly see your slides, so maybe if we just, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I just stopped sharing, but I'm trying to get back to you guys. There we go. There you all are.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to put it in presentation mode. We can still see it.
Unfortunately, I only have kind of half my screen. Boy, this is crazy.
Would you like to borrow one?
Okay, let's just talk about Greeter. Oh, and now it wants me to add my apps.
Cindy, talk about Greeter and I'll try and get the slideshow on my computer and run it from here.
Okay. So Greeter, I didn't print out anything. I mean, of the reams of paper behind me. So the couple of things I can remember about Greeter was that, here we go. They weren't sure of the difference of where to direct people between message taker or a direct place like needs and resources. And I saw people doing it both ways. One logic has it going, we'll send people to go look and see if they're blankets. And if there aren't, then we'll send them over to write the message. And I did not see any citizens complaining about getting bounced back, you know, that kind of understood the logic of it. But one of the suggestions that came out was, maybe we can have a stack of those forms at our table. And while we're busy being resource managers and looking for matches, the people can fill out the forms themselves, and then maybe we just check them. And then that way they don't have to go away and stand in another form. And so what you'd have to do is kind of move them out of the way so that you can still keep actively helping people. And then when they finish their form, shuffle back in. So that kind of was one big aha. And then one greeter said, all good. And the other one was needing a good briefing on what is going on where, because of what is that medical tent over there? What do they do? And when do I send people over there? So Ann and I both stood with the greeters for a while because we understood what the setup of the hub was, because it was new to some people who had not played at a fully set up hub before. So having a good briefing by the hub manager about, here's what we intend in our neighborhood to have happen, then that way it gives you all flexibility about, hey, we don't have enough people to run a medical tent. We're going to collapse it this way. So I think that was kind of the lesson learned is make your decisions, tell your greeter what you're doing, then maybe stop and thank you, Ann. Mm-hmm. Stop and readjust after 2 hours and get your greeter on board. And that goes back to the hub manager circling around going, hey, all the sheltering stuff seems to be showing up over at the info rather than the needs and resources. Okay. Any other inputs about actors? You know, see, I see some of you guys who were actors. Is there any people, you know, our actor people already gave their input. Is there anything else that worked well or should be improved, or any other comments you want to make?
Well, I think you mentioned in the beginning of this that there also was some confusion about the volunteers and what they provide, and it also taps into resources, and I don't know if maybe we ask people to kind of go to two places or something. I guess the other thought is everybody was all polite and civilized, because this was a drill. But I'm not sure why there's only one greeter, but if it was really an urgent matter, people aren't going to be that patient, I guess. And ideally there could be like 3 greeters, or should be, because everybody's going to, I need this.
Well, that's a good point. During the exercise, I wish you guys had been ruder, like, hey, this isn't working. You need to get me 3 more people. But you all were trying to do the exercise the way you walked in and set it up. I mean, I put up some stuff and I just put blue tape on his headers, and like people didn't move them. And I'm like, organize it the way you wanted. I just wanted to get this up and have you have something. So in these exercises, you are free to be creative and solve problems. And Melissa and Erica talking about, and Anne, that they walked around and helped and made adjustments. That's exactly what has to happen. Mm-hmm. So Patty did have a second person, helping for a little while. But what you tended to do was you worked the same person together. You didn't have one person going up the line and, doubling up.
Well, sometimes we did split, when it got to be more people, and she felt more confident.
Yes.
And I guess the other feedback that the people in line said, it would have been helpful to have the sign, like I say, go over there to the white tent or whatever, but have that say volunteers, so they know. And if they want to go there in a hurry, they can see they're going to the right place.
We've got a drawing for you, because we did hear that feedback.
We heard that a lot, Patty. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Anybody
but
else?
It all just feels a little confusing. It's just blurry. Volunteer. Somebody says, I'm a carpenter, I can do this and that. Is that a resource, or is that a volunteer?
Yeah. If it's a skill, not a thing, it's a volunteer.
Totally. It's totally a volunteer.
It's when we have the skill, the chainsaw guy with his chainsaw, and that's the hard ones,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because there was a number of people with some skills. Right. And somebody says, I need somebody to get this thing off my driveway, so what's that? Yeah.
I have a Prius and I can recharge wheelchairs, what's that? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
I wonder too, when they're talking to people, maybe some of this is everybody check back in 3 hours, like it's going to be so much chaos. It's going to be hard for all of us to just match everybody up. But, if you're a volunteer, come back every 3 hours and see if anybody needs you, you know?
Yeah, that's what the people who asked for a volunteer workshop said. We'd really like to do one where people stay and we wait for the match, and then we can turn around and actually capture them,
Yeah, but people, they're hungry, they're, whatever, but they say, I can do this. But if, then we can say this person's coming back at noon and 3.
There's a box on the volunteer thing that says availability. And so if they're going to check out, that's there, so they can say, we'll return at noon tomorrow or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. I know you didn't get to play at that role, Patty. So that's why we want people to rotate around, as you get a better sense of what gets done.
Yeah, but you really get a sense of how chaotic it could be.
Yep. But you guys, I will say, everybody was very calm. Nobody, swore. I mean, even I didn't swear. And so all the actors respond to that. We control the attitude by it's all okay. It's just a drill.
The feedback was amazing from the actors about how professional and friendly and helpful everybody was. I mean, almost every single form said that exact thing. So good job not losing your cool.
Mm-hmm.
Any other things on greeters? We've got a couple of things about doubling up and streamlining and having better knowledge and signage.
Yeah, this is Pauline. I was a greeter at the first drill, first shift, and I did not know the stations. And so the next time we do a drill, the volunteers need to be able to read the booklet. You know, it must be summaries about the resource manager and volunteer coordinator. You know, I didn't know any of that stuff until I stood there, and Cindy, you know, helped me kind of like, oh my God, this is, you know, this is where this is where that is. So I had to learn on the job, and it was, if it had been the real thing, it would have been a real panic. And I, you know, and I kind of understand that when we put up a hub, it's not going to be spread out on a park like that. It may be just 2, you know, pop-ups, and so everything would be right there. But the importance of understanding each of the stations, and I don't know what the plan is, but you know, when I left there that day, I was like, I need a deep dive into each one of those stations so that I really understand message taker and the resource manager and what the real plan is. So that
do
was
you have your set of hub books?
What?
Do you have your set of hub books? Probably not, because you've got a new box. So yeah,
And
you're going to get
Pauline hasn't been through Hub 101.
You're going to get a stack of.
She's new.
No, I just got dropped in the deep end. I do have a book, but it didn't enter my mind beforehand that I should review that book before showing up that morning.
Yeah, Ann and I both had volunteers who I knew at my hub had never done the job. In fact, like you, they'd never seen they'd never seen a hub. They were brand new hub people, and they were just enthusiastic to go. And I'm like, this is not going to be good. I need to call and get, you know, point out to you and describe to you what to do. So you had some briefing. It wasn't because it necessarily your experience, because I didn't realize you hadn't even read the books. And that tells you how you may think it felt like forever, but I'm going, I could have walked away after half an hour and you'd have gotten 75% of the people to the right place. So you know, you guys' adaptability and everybody helping each other, it's good. You know, I feel really good when we go through an exercise like this and we get feedback that says, I didn't know anything and you made me do the job, and by God, we did the job. So it's good. Anybody else on Greeter? Okay, Ann, let's go to the next one. A few minutes to read this. So the information manager, this was a tough one because some of our dysfunction with the radio, we're having a hard time tracking the paths of, you know, did some of the radio messages go to where they were supposed to go? I have not gotten all the way through the Jefferson stuff. Maple Leaf was kind of the timing got off on us. But you know, the key things I heard, besides there were some fundamentals like the flexible boards are nice, but they're hard to write on, but we don't have enough room in our hub boxes to stack 60 whiteboards. So that may be something you ask your community to bring and you figure out how to string those things up. We just went with the easy, let's not cart 3 tons of gear into each park. So I gave people flexible whiteboards. Running out of room is going to be bad, because if the second one that said I had to erase stuff, and then I took pictures with my phone, which was clever. But then when somebody asked a question and you'd go, I think that was on the one that I had to erase. Wait, let me bring up the message. You know, that's just not good, because when he leaves, what's the next shift going to do? So having lots of whiteboard space looks like it's going to be really important. The very bottom one was a good solution, which I'll move it down under what could be improved. Put the highlights up. Don't write the, you know, 12-line message that came from the city, you know, capture it and put the details down, like, you know, boil water, details in book, or details at educator, you know. So we can start preserving some of the space, but this was really good. I mean, you can see, you can read the handwriting. It was really well organized. I didn't put up pictures of the maps, but they did pretty good. The lost and found comment in community posting, that really was generally intended for the community to just come up and write stuff like, a TV is available down at the bar running on a generator, go there to see, you know, what's going on. You know, we didn't have to devote someone to doing it, but at Maple Leaf, at both of our exercises, somebody volunteered to stand there and help people do that. So you can see there's 2 people in each of these pictures. So that was a surprise to us. We thought that was a 1-person job and it became 2 people, but it was needed. That's how they kept up. So there is the problem of the improvement I heard, which was hub manager and key people like the greeter, you know, walk around and make sure you know what's going up at the resource or the information board. Anything else?
Cindy?
Linda.
I was staffing the information. Can you hear me?
Barely,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. I was staffing information at Jefferson. And I'm curious about your comment that earlier that the information people should be disseminating information outside of posting them into the hub itself, because we were inundated.
Yeah.
We were taking them as fast as we could. We had 4 and 5 messages stacked up at one point, and we were just getting them down as fast as we could. I did leave the tent several times when I had either a child, an unaccompanied minor, or a disabled person. So I was leaving the tent to take them to various places. But other than that, there was no time to go around the tent to tell other people things. There simply wasn't if you're going to do the job. So that, to me, maybe we need to rethink that. How do we expect everybody else in the hub to find out what's on those boards? I would expect them to walk over briefly and just, you know, do a drive-by and walk by and just take a look, but I don't know.
I think if you thought I said that, I didn't intend that. If I did,
I said it.
Oh, okay.
I said it as a suggestion. Yeah. And it's not the answer. It's just it's an idea. Melissa put in the chat that every tent seemed like a 2-person job, and I totally saw that. But in reality, probably going to be the other way around, 1 person doing 2 to 3 jobs. I hope you're not right, Melissa, but yeah.
I think, Linda, more your point is the hub manager is the person, because that information is the community level information, and it tells them what is going on and what's, you know, what are the things that are bubbling up that people are reporting or checking. And it may have to be the hub manager who is doing the circulating, right? Coming by the info booth and going, yep, the whole half of West Seattle just looks like it's inaccessible, and passing on that word that, hey, heads up, you might start getting more requests for, you know, debris crews or something like that.
Can I also suggest that potentially it could be placement of that booth? It was pointed away from at Maple Leaf from the others. It was around the bend. It was the last one around. And I'm wondering if maybe placement nearer the greeter, or, you know, nearer either that, or if they could be facing the other booths. They probably were like that at Jefferson, but I think at Maple Leaf that probably contributed to the fact that you had to go to the end of the line to visit the information booth.
Right. But it was still the same problem at Jefferson. You couldn't see from where anybody was. You had to go over and get 4 feet away from the signs to read them. Yeah, because of the size of the printing. But and I think that suggestion of just the basic topic, knowing that there's more information somewhere else, whether it's on a sheet of paper or over at the educator's booth. But I do think it makes a difference where that booth is sitting. I've been thinking about that for ours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to
as close as you can safely.
Say it again, Ann.
As close as you can safely.
Oh, yeah.
And I think turned inward is better than turned outward.
And then also when we talked about, one of my observations was like people were wiped out at that 2-hour mark. I mean, we were exhausted. And so, you know, where I thought shifts, you know, like you listen to the OEM professionals and they're like, yeah, we're 12 hours on and 12 hours off. And I'm like, there ain't no way we're going to get community members to do that. 2 hours seems like you need to go away for an hour and recharge. So we may have to think about a pattern that is work for 2 hours, then everybody come over to the info booth, and that's where you do your shift change, or that's where you do your debrief. And then everybody's sort of getting what the situation is. And then the new people and the old people go back to the booths, you work for 15 more minutes, and then people leave, the ones who are going out. So I'm definitely hearing the more you can pass on to your next person and the better you onboard people, that's going to make things smoother. And the info booth seems to be a key to that.
Yeah, there's a message in the chat about runners, and do they need to be defined and filled as a, just part of the hub? And I think that's a very good suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah, we both ended up with runners because we just had to grab someone and say, because of the kind of way that the radio stuff worked this time, it was like too far out, grab a runner so that they can get to the hub captain or they can take it between the radio tents. We need to work on that as part of the whole radio messaging stuff. So, okay, anything else for information manager?
Yeah, sorry, I was unmuted there for a bit. Apologies about that. I definitely, I think something I've been thinking about for all of these is like the size of a hub, right? Like, so my hub, we have 1 tent, 1 table, 2 chairs, right? So, the information manager, resource manager, and volunteer manager may be like one person or right next to each other. So I think for me, it would be helpful in the manual if it was like, if it differentiated between a new or small hub versus a, large hub, and how the setup could be different, right? So it's almost like as you grow, like some guidance on how to set that up, because, a lot of these issues for me wouldn't be at our hub because we would literally all be at one table.
In the hub manager book, there is a chart that says if you only have 2 people, these are the key functions to do. And if you have 4 people, then you do these functions. And whether you're doing them in the same tent or you add tents or whatever, but we had a whole workshop where we said, my God, how do we do all this with, only the 5 who are going to show up on the first day? So that was exactly what that was intended for. So take a look at that. And if we need to modify it, based on what you guys are learning from this, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah. That information is in the staffing sheet. It says, these are the roles and these are who you have filling them. And at the very top, it says, fill these in order. Like the number 1 job is listed first, and the medical officer, visiting nurse, reunification officer, those are the very bottom of that sheet.
Okay.
It's subtle. It's a subtle way to teach you how to fill your jobs.
Okay, great. I think I'll meet with you separately, Andrew, because there's a lot of information on the Google Drive. Is that where the hub book that you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I found like a couple different hub books. So I read through, most of them. So I think maybe I'll take some time to kind of figure out some of those things with you at another time.
Yeah, happy to.
Thank you.
Anybody else on Info Manager? Okay, go ahead and go to the next one.
Educator.
Educator seemed like the easy job. It's never easy talking to the public and educating them on the spot, but we had the least confusion at these booths. Anybody who was an educator have anything to add?
It was the funnest job.
Yeah,
that's good to hear.
It was fun. We needed paper.
You needed paper. Just like blank paper, you mean?
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff that people aren't going to have phones, so they wanted to write down how to boil water, how to build a toilet. And so we talked it through, but it would have been nice for them to scratch out something to take back to their place.
I'm going to say to remind people that Ann and I did the best we could to simulate a hub box. Ann didn't have enough blue tape. I compensated. I have now 16 rolls of blue tape here at home. But if you need paper, go over to the hub box and see if there's paper.
Yeah.
That's the part of the exercise is to go, what tools do we need here? So that's a good part of this practice is you become that flexible genie that says, well, crap, this isn't working. Get my hub manager over here and fix it for me.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a hub box.
We had tables of stuff, and I had, so I learned, and I had IKEA bags that said hub box.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah,
in the hub, in the job books for the ones that I brought over for this hub, so the educator would have been a blue binder and it would have said educator on the front. The job description is in the front, and there's always blank paper in the back. So if you guys are putting together your own hub books, throw paper back there as just a, it's a stopgap measure. It's not going to last for very long, but it's at least a start.
Yeah.
Well, and I think something that Cindy said that was really helpful is put, like, right now, ask the community for what we need.
Yes.
And that was something that never entered our minds as we were running through that.
Yeah.
Like, you need more pop-ups, put that.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's our problem of these artificial drills, and what would you really do in the real world, right? Yeah.
Be more resourceful. The educator book was really useful, as were the posters.
Good.
It would be really functional in a high stress situation.
Good. Yeah, the flapping in the wind is our biggest problem with those. I totally admit.
Yeah.
Is there one of, there's not a poster on making shelter? Is that just too basic?
Making shelter?
Well, I mean, people are coming there. They don't have shelter. They don't have, they don't have shelter. Of course, you didn't have any scenarios that asked for that. And I realized maybe that's needs haves. That's a needs.
Yeah, if they didn't have shelter, they should go over to the needs and resources and find someone who's offering shelter.
Okay, so we're not going to teach them how to make a tent with. So that was my.
I mean,
I don't know.
It depends on if you have time and you know how to make a tent.
Well, I was thinking a poster. You had a poster that. Okay,
well, actually, so behind the scenes stuff that you guys didn't see, this feels like Hollywood. John Hyanga, who's the parks manager who helped us with all the permits and stuff, he really wanted to set up what's called a soft side shelter, which is their expectation that if it's like the San Francisco of 1905 and people are going to stay in the parks, he and his parks crew are going to be dealing with a lot of people setting up tents. So he wanted to have a demonstration project right next to us saying, this is what soft side shelters will look like. Here's tents, a lot of people in Seattle, have tents or canvas, and he was going to set something up. And because just the way, Seattle's in crisis all the time here with homeless and stuff like that, the thunderstorm, he was the guy on duty. So he said, I may drive by and drop off the soft side shelter demonstration. Can you guys set it up for me? Because he had to go deal with thunder and lightning and closing soccer fields. And then we never saw him. So I would say, let's not work on sheltering until we see what their soft side shelter plan is going to be.
Another possibility on that is to send them over to resources, like you were saying. Maybe somebody's got a tent that they can spare.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the, I just want to make a comment. If the information could be flipped around so that people can gather and read it, directly, easily. Otherwise, they kind of have to lean in and it's hard for them to read the information. Good what I'm saying? Flip that around backwards,
Or
so
maybe
they can
not have the table as a barrier, have the table out, and so that COVID.
Yeah, let everybody go in under the tent. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Yeah, I think the more self-service, visitors to the hub being able to see what's available, not having to necessarily interact with a hub worker for everything.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Which means having good whiteboards or, to facilitate that, being able to write large.
Well, I think the info boards we have to control, because you can't have people coming up and writing rumors down,
Yeah, I mean, read only, but so people can see, oh, there's
yes. Anything else on education? Okay. Yes, we had all sorts of things in resources, and we talked about some of them already. You know, just that confusion between volunteer and tents. So I'll give you a minute to read them. Gabrielle, are you still on?
No, she's gone.
Okay. So there was the one comment we got from the actors that I included in here was there'd been a local map so that when they said, hey, the food is at 1245 Main Street, they had a map where they could go, where is that? Because a lot of people don't know all their neighborhoods. So that was something I added in from the kind of hot wash. The difference I think that happened between Maple Leaf and Jefferson is we use different tools. And one was that it was on the table. And so it was, they didn't have as much width and space, and they were writing some of the forms there, where at Jefferson, you know, I just did it the way I knew it, which is here you got this big sheet, use whatever you want. You can see the blue labels up there. And if you know, they didn't have any forms there except as emergency, and they would send people over to message taker. And that did not seem to really irritate the actors, but it could be sped up if you had two people here and the second person was helping fill out the form. I could never get from Susan Sanders which form she liked. So there was two different needs and resources forms in play. Anne and I would love to pick one form so that we can finally start printing them for you guys, or telling you which ones to print. But by the time we were done filling up, you know, all our forms, I had 11 stacks of different forms. So we need to pick one. Any other comments about what was working well or what could be improved?
As the volunteer coordinator, I occasionally sent volunteers over to the resource tent to see if there were services needed that they could fill. But like I said, it was, they'd have to interact with the person working that table to find out, versus if there was a readable board, then they could see what was needed if there was something needed. And also along the same lines, a visitor to the hub, if they saw, oh, somebody needs help moving a tree limb, they could see that they could do that and talk to whomever.
It seems strange to me, you know, if we're going to differentiate between volunteers and, you know, tangible items as far as things being offered, but not doing the same with volunteers needed versus things needed.
Well, I'm trying to translate what he just said, and I'm sorry I didn't catch who was saying that, because I was going, I thought if you needed a volunteer, or you needed a person, or you were offering a skill, you went to the volunteer tent. So the volunteer guy just told me he sent who over to the resources?
So this is Jim. I had volunteers, actually they are that needed something to do. They were standing by. And I would send them, I sent a couple over to the resource tent to see if there was a services needed posted there. That's something that the resource table would have. Not only physical material needed, but also like I need some warm bodies to help me do something. Is that correct?
No, they should, everybody who needed a skill, like we need 5 guys to go move a car. Those 5 guys would have been sent to, you know, that person looking for those 5 people would have been sent to the volunteer thing.
Okay. I thought there was
don't know that it happened all the time.
Yeah, so we had stuff, we had skills needed over at the needs and resources tent is what you're telling me.
I thought that was something that the resource tent was dealing in, that they would post things like that. I think in the hub book, it talks about a services needed board. That's where I got that idea.
Ann and I'll have to go look for that. Yeah,
Cindy,
if it's bodies and skills, everything goes over to the volunteers, whether you have it or need it.
Yeah, we didn't do it that way at Maple Leaf in the beginning.
Ah.
So Catherine in the chat says, I was sent to resources to find a vet. So sent to the resources table to find a person. Resources manager pretended there was a vet at the volunteer tent. Oh, and Catherine was at Jefferson.
There would be services offered in the resource tent if they were off-site and they were recurring. So like there's a vet down on Rainier Boulevard and they will be open from, 10 to 3 every day. You would put that on your resources, right?
Yeah, that's true. And then that would have ended up at medical too.
Wouldn't it have gone to information?
That's what I would have said too, is information.
Yeah.
That was the biggest aha was.
If you're having high level, aftershocks expected, boil your water, high level information at information booth, and you have limited space, it seems to me that and also my definition would be that the stuff at the information board is for everybody. Not everybody has a pet they're going to need to go take to the vet. And so that to me is a resource, a service resource, if you will. And we actually made our board so that we have both resources, things, and services that are recurring. We have boards for that we made.
So I think what would be helpful is if we all sat and we all went, what goes where, right?
Yeah.
And just say, services are these things and they should go in this booth. Now there's some flexibility that we can do. So Linda said if it affects most of your community, that goes on the information booths, right? So not everybody's on drugs, not everybody needs to know the pharmacies there, although we tend to go life-saving, that needs to go on the whiteboards. But if shelter is not something we totally expect that everybody's going to need, but if you are in an area where your buildings were devastated and somebody else didn't have that problem, sheltering may be what you put on your whiteboard, so it's never hard and fast. But I think we should have an exercise where it's like, everybody put up what goes here. That helps us narrow down I am a man or a woman with a chainsaw, where are we going to put that one? Okay, so that's good input. Just the need clarity around these general groupings.
Yeah.
I know, Cindy, you said we were going to do like a deep dive around this, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's one workshop on volunteer management and really one workshop on info, resources.
Great. Yeah, I think using the scenarios that you all had and having us talk through those would be good, because that's what we all were like.
Yep. Like we said, we got 75% of them were no-brainers, right? We're talking about the 30% that kind of like people went. I think the most I got was somebody went 6 places on one of them. so that
like, to you, they're no-brainers, but I think again, like some of us are a bit newer, so I'm like, I would think they would go here, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So I'm curious.
No, they were. I didn't mean they were no-brainers. I meant you guys nailed them, right?
Oh, okay, got you.
They went straight to the place they had to go, or they went there and the message taker and then back, which is perfectly plausible.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, you guys hit the 75% without issues. It's the 30, and then when I read them, you kind of go, wow, that's really weird. Why did they send them to that one in the first place? So that will drive this good discussion.
Great.
Well,
okay.
Can I also just add that it may vary depending on your neighborhood. I don't know if it's the population in our neighborhood, but one of the jokes in Eastlake is there are more dogs than kids by far.
So yeah, maybe the vet information goes on the information board because everybody's got dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it really varies, but we have lots of multifamilies with lots of dogs.
And do also remember, we all bring different experiences from our past drills, you know, if you've done them, and we were trying to merge that plus all the new people who are like learning on the fly. So yeah, okay. Resource managers, let's go on.
Can I just say something?
Louise has got something to say.
I also found it hard to understand how you use the resource manager. The pile up of offers became very hard to sort through what was available. And it seemed a not functional way to stuff those pockets. And do people come back and look, or is that always managed by people operating the table and the public doesn't go behind the table?
That generally, that's what we think is a better practice, because if you have people scanning for generators or things and they start disappearing and it's something you wanted to come back to the hub, like the generator, you know, you should control it. And I found paperwork at mine where they had pulled them out, and if it was consumed, like, you know, we have 5 cases of protein bars. I need a bunch of food. They pulled that out, stapled together, and called it matched. I also found them in there where it said needs blankets, needs coats, or, you know, has blankets, has coats, has shoes, matched shoes with blah, 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 because they only took part of what was being offered. And so those were together up there too.
Yeah.
They were left up in the thing. And then Ann and I were talking about the forms. People in the shoebox, all the shoebox stuff are long and skinny. So people were writing little headers across the top. Have shoes, need.
Yeah.
So we may end up putting that right on the form.
The forms were really big. The half-page forms are really big from a stuffing perspective, and putting multiple forms in a pocket. The whole thing is puzzling to me. That seems a system to be looked at a bit.
Which one were you at? Maple Leaf or?
Maple Leaf.
Okay, so see the one that Gabrielle's doing on the right there? Those you don't have to fold. Those are full-size half-sheet pockets.
It still gets a stacking system going on. You have to flip through.
Yeah, we don't have the real estate to put them all out so you can see everything at one time.
Yeah, and that's where some, you know, this can also be what they did was she started doing all the food that was refrigerated or something in one pocket, and then food that was non-perishable in another pocket. So she started organizing, and so yes, they were stacked, but at least she could go right to the pocket, and you can use Post-its to label, you know, or blue tape to say.
Yeah, the more discrete the category, the more functional.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, but that.
Yep.
But Ann, you had a nice design at your hub.
Linda, we can just barely hear you.
Victory Heights has a very nice design for their board. We hope that we have a decent design for ours. We don't do this way. We actually made our forms half a quarter page to accommodate more of them on our board.
We have used a quarter sheets. I'm not sure they're big enough. And then there's some reluctance to having anything that you have to write on the back for. So there's a downside. And just FYI, so in Victory Heights, we have magnetic boards that we hang up all around the tent with magnets to put that stuff on. Watching the drill, I'm not sure we have enough space on our boards. I think we're going to run out of space. And maybe our secondary way to organize this is kind of like a shoe hanger, whatever those things are called.
And honestly, folks, you know, if it's day 2 or 3 and we're getting up in the dozens of these forums, man, if I haven't found a building that's going to let me in so I can use their wall space, I'm not doing my job, you know. So this is like the 3-day solution, we hope. And, you know, then with given aftershocks, we can find a place you can get inside. You know, the bar next to me knows I am looking at him.
Can I ask a question about how we got to the this method of storing them? It seems to me we're not giving the public access anyway to those. Could we not be using 5x8 cards in a file box that has dividers that we could indicate the various things? There must be a reason you decided not to do that, but I don't know what it is.
Well, we did start with the let's pin stuff, and we found out how that flaps and flies. We heard from Ballard that they used the shoebox filing system. So Ann and I tried to call them and say, show us this system, because this sounds like it would be a good best practice to try out. And we never found anybody who really could remember how they had done it, because they had done that at exercise so long ago. So we know that there's better ways out there. We just didn't have the bandwidth to invent a new system other than what we'd already been using. So that is definitely something we can put into the hopper.
That or the accordion folders are also for larger slips of paper, but I just was curious.
Well, we should do another exercise like this where we try, 3 tables and you have 3 or 4 different methods, and what happens when they're up at script number 400, right?
Yeah. I would like that. The other thing I thought about, like for me, I'm a very visual person. So like like the box, I don't know that to me, it's like, oh my God, where is it? But I almost thought about like a binder with those like clear pockets, and you have, the binder has like tabs, so you can have categories and stick the paper into clear pockets so that you can see some of them, you can take them out, you can file through them and put them back in if you need to. For me, I feel like, there's a few different ways that would make sense to do it. One of which could be, I think the shoe pockets aren't bad. You're able to see everything a bit better than if it's in a box. So, I would love to try different things and see what makes sense.
Yep.
One thought I had in having these hanging things is it's likely you may be taking the hub down at night, depending upon how secure you feel it is and how easy it is to accomplish, dismantling and reassembling that. I think the accordion folder kind of makes sense when you think about it from that way.
Yeah, although I did that mega mover that Gabrielle's standing in front of. I pulled that down, folded it up, and brought it home because I wanted to see how it all went. And I was happy that it didn't, destroy everything. So we do have to think about tearing all this down every night. What are you going to do? So good point. Thank you.
One of my thoughts is after 3 days, I'm going to run out of paper. There aren't going to be places to make copies and stuff. So I was concerned about that.
Well, you're going to ask your neighborhood for stuff. Has anybody got a generator, like fancy ass would go generator and can I plug in my Xerox and run forms? Or we just, you've written out this form 3 million times. You're doing it on a blank piece of paper or Post-its, and you're asking your neighborhood for, bring me more paper.
Well, you also, our binders could have a form that's been laminated just like we have for the translating things, and so that you use that to work off of.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I think let's go past resources.
Okay. Volunteer coordinator.
we've heard some of this already.
Anything we haven't beaten to death yet?
The third bullet down, there was a suggestion that what they didn't have, they had the forms for the individuals, and then they had a form to check people out, like sent them out to the field and waiting for them to come back. But what they missed was a log where they could just, have the short, just like we talked about, quick flip binder sort of thing, Betty's this person, Joe's this person, so that when somebody comes up and is looking for a certain skill, they have a column they can just scan looking for it, and then they know who they're looking for.
The screen got changed to medical law.
Oh, sorry. There we go. We're back to volunteer. Sorry.
So my issue was that we evidently were located in a very well staffed with lots of experienced neighbors. So I had a retired physician, a vet, a structural engineer, and I didn't have anything for these guys to do. And so I started making an on-call, a call sheet to get their address. And I'd say, we'll send somebody if we need you. And also like check back in 2 hours if you can, something like that.
Yep.
And then I realized later that a more realistic thing would be to put them to work as a volunteer.
Is it anything?
Yeah, but also to keep track of that skill and that we have it. And regarding medical needs to know that we have somebody in that category. And so volunteer tents seem to be kind of like a human resources organization.
Oh, well, you know what? That's a damn good name.
Human resources people. Jim, I think in my head that if somebody reported to the greeter and said, I'm a retired physician, they probably, in my head, they should have gone straight to the medical officer tent to be put to use. But, you know, not everybody knew there was a medical officer. This is the first time we rolled it out. So that's kind of this whole workshop kind of thing and figuring out the smartest place to send these folks.
Yeah, that's what I thought would happen. And I had a nurse who came to the table. I said, oh, good, I know what to do with you. I'll send them to the medical tent. And they said, oh, they sent me here.
Because the people that needed medical attention, those scenarios didn't make it to the medical tent. So they didn't have a person and a need to match up.
Right. And medical tent likely doesn't happen to need a nurse right now. And we don't want them to have to worry about, well, how can we put this person to work in the hub until we need them or if we need them. So it seems like it should go to the volunteer coordinator, HR, to kind of track that human resource.
Well, that's what we're going to have to work out in the volunteer versus medical versus, you know, things. Yes, that is exactly the issue, right?
Yeah, that's the meat of this whole thing.
Yeah. So all of this, just, you know, we had a lot of good input that says it was a mess. let's figure it out. And we did try to artificially say, here, go away and come back and, you know, pretend you've come back 10 minutes later and see if the volunteer coordinator even knows you're alive. You know, that was really artificially hard to do too. So if we do a focused tabletop on it, it'll make it a little bit better. I will say that Dolores has one thing on here that when she was the medical, there was an observation that if you're going to collect the human resources to do stuff in the expectation that you're going to have injuries, you ought to immediately put out a call for blankets, gauze, bandages, all the things that nurses would need to start taking care of people. And that was a really good observation. So that's what why her tie with needs and resources is we're pretty sure there'll be injured people that aren't going to get to hospitals, you know, right away. And if we're going to stabilize them or do light first aid, we need stuff. Start asking for it right away. So that was a really good idea. Anything else on volunteer coordinator?
This was more of a, how do you drill the table? There would be people that I would say, normally I would say, well, stand by, we'll put you to work. Or, you know, if we have a need, I can find work for you to do in the hub. Well, the actor, they don't want to stand by. So I realized it would work better to pretend that that person is standing by. Mm-hmm. And then later when somebody needs a volunteer to help do something off site, I could send that pretend person.
Yep. I heard that feedback from you at the Maple Leaf. And so what we tried to do at Jefferson was, and this is why it's so hard to go, here's how you run a hub, but you know, for this exercise, do this one thing. Write that actor's name down on a Post-it and walk over to the waiting here station so that you've got 15 Post-its and those are faces waiting for you. But that, you know, as they got into the heat of the exercise, they forget to do that. So it's really hard to, you know, play double roles. Ann and I learned that, you know, give simple instructions, and even those really are hard to remember because you're really focused on trying to do the job. So. All right, let's go on if there's nothing else. Okay, we talked a lot about this already. And there was some specific stuff that came out under that first bullet.
Oh yeah, I just heard a lot about this from Andrew, and he was one of those people that never left the tent. He expected the information to flow to him, and he felt like if he was a medical asset doing medical care or nursing, whatever, that it would not be a good use of his time to go around and look for information if he's physically working on people. And I'm sure everybody in their tent feels the same way, as well as the information officer. Like Linda was saying, you know, nobody feels like they're dispensable enough that they can, you know, that they can go around and share information. So we just need a system to figure out what's going, keep everybody informed.
And then, you know, the comments of all the things, this was a hard role and it had no training too. So people really compensated pretty well though.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else on?
Yeah, I don't think any of our medical folks are here tonight, so.
Yeah. Okay. Message taker?
What we need to do is work on when you use a regular hub form and when you use the form that's called an ICS 213, which is supposed to be for priority only traffic. And we had, part of that was my fault because I thought I could bring in some hub to hub traffic without it being on a form. And the hub managers were so new, they just kind of looked at the script and went, I don't know what to do with this. So next time I will bring the form over and introduce it as though a citizen has gone through the first couple of things. So that was one really confusing factor. But we're just going to have to do the clarification of priority stuff, which is, you know, critical infrastructure, many people injured, big damn deal to your neighborhood, that's going to go over the radio, needs to go on a 213 so that they can put that right into their system. And then the second thing we've run into, which we were aware of, but we didn't want to spend the money. There are two-part ICS 213 forms. So if somebody comes in and says, there's a big fire, that needs to go on a 213 form so it can go to the radio tent to go into the city. But we need to put it on our whiteboards, and it needs to be to the attention of the hub captain because maybe people need to be sent to go evacuate the area in front of the fire. So rather than having to write that message twice, you know, using the two-part carbon form, but we just didn't want to order and spend a lot of money in an exercise doing that. So we'll have to fix that next time.
And that may be what some of the funds that we fundraised for with the GoFundMe campaign, that we may be spending some money for these forms.
Yep, just so you guys can get some real practice. So is Catherine still on? Anything else, Catherine, you wanted to add about the 213s?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful in the future to do a workshop or just a short seminar on how to complete them correctly and what things go where and where to not put things. That would be useful. Yeah, one of the things we discovered as hubs and ACS is the 213 doesn't have a log number field. And so everybody was forgetting the log number because you had to remember to put it in there. And that was you need to put it in the subject. So that's something we could talk about if we do a seminar.
Yeah. So any message takers on that had anything else? This is where we got, you know, two versions of the hub form out there, and which one shall we pick?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
In terms of the 213s, I did have a thought during the exercise, and I don't know how to put it in practice, but it would almost be beneficial to print like a unique identifier on them beforehand, like a in computer terms, we use something called a GUID, which is it's a very long string of numbers and letters that you can generate randomly, and it's practically guaranteed never to duplicate. So regardless of where you were at the hub, you could, print something that would allow you to trace those messages, but it wouldn't be easy to write. So I don't know how that would be put into practice.
Printing them the day of?
No, I mean, like pre-printing the forms, like every copy of the form would be a unique copy. It would have like a serial number on it that two forms would never be alike. So you could somehow like take a portion of that and use it to trace that message.
Well, if we do the carbon copy forms, we might be able to incorporate something like that.
Well, you can just have a party and handwrite, 200 numbers on them, because remember, we got 66 hubs and they all are going to have different designators.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a thought.
Thanks, Matt.
I was an actor and I needed food, and I was a vegetarian also. And I was sent to the message taker. When are people sent to the message taker? I was surprised I wasn't sent to the resource table.
That's just that's a function of the greeter may have made a bad choice, right?
Okay, so that was a bad. I was wondering when people are sent to the message taker.
So there's different philosophies. Some people say go write it all down. That's just how they want to think, is because when they get to the resource thing, that it may not be there, and then they've got the form and they can just hand it over and it's done. And the other philosophy is go look and don't make people stand and write unless they need to. So both answers are really right. You're going to stand in a line somewhere, right? It's just, was it useful or maybe not, right? Because if there was a match and you didn't have to have a form, then we thought people would get cranky because they're standing, I had to stand in line to fill out this paper and I didn't even need it. So
yeah, I think as the greeter, I think as the day went on, I got to the point where I was like, oh, they need to go see if the resource is already there and save that time. So it was a learning thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just real quick. 2 years ago when we had the drill, that was the bottleneck, message taker. And we all agreed you can't have one, you can't send everybody to message taker because it's a huge bottleneck.
That's true, but the people who have made the different call, they're usually the new people and they didn't get through that learning curve that we already did. So if nothing, making the wrong choice, it just reinforces, oh, maybe try something different next time.
Yeah. And when a greeter asked me where to send them, I said, look over at the two tables at the message taker booth and the resource booth, and whichever one is shorter, send them there. So there's a third answer there too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
good.
Cindy, this is Ann. I have a question about that. If someone arrives at the greeter and has a need and goes directly to the resource table, and the resource director or whatever you call that position determines that there's a match and tells them, yes, there's a shovel you can get at XYZ address. Do we have any information of the person who's gone to get that shovel, or do we just rely upon trusting them to let us know when they've returned the shovel to that address?
Yeah, that's a hard one. The shovel I might not worry about. Maybe the guy who originally came and said, "Hey, I have a shovel," shows back up. I don't know that I would expect the person who borrowed the shovel to come back and say, "I've returned it." But the guy with the resource might go, "Oh, good, I've got it back. I've got to go visit my mom in Bellevue, and it's not available anyway." So we would just keep encouraging people who've got these reusable things to let us know if they can.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not sure that was the best or only example, but that sure works for that example. So I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, the chainsaw is like the better one, you know.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's one where we definitely want somebody to tell us the chainsaw is ready for the next person. And then that's, you know, where you tell the person you're going away, hey, make sure somebody lets us know that the chainsaw is available again.
Right. Yeah.
Because generally,
Okay,
I think guys are not going to let, you know, people are not going to say, here, take my chainsaw and I'll see you, you know, make sure you bring it back. You know, they usually go with it.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe a good answer is the person that has the resource is responsible for tracking, you know, let the keeping track of it, let somebody else do that out in the neighborhood instead of us.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, it would be wonderful if blocks, you know, we really hope that neighbors on the blocks are taking care of everything around them to start with before they come to the hub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We got 20 minutes left. I think we got 2 more to go.
All right. Radio.
So I don't know that I saw Mike Ruby, but I know Matt's on. These were the debrief notes we got. We had some technical problems in both. They had to change channels and that seemed to work well. Anything else to add, Matt?
Yeah, I had mentioned the tent identification before. Let's see, 213s. Hamtown was rejecting messages. Yeah, so comments on that. Yeah, I think things that could have been improved. The first time it was difficult to differentiate the tents. I think the layout the second time worked better, partially because we were closer, and I think that they were rotated differently, so it made it easier to identify. If you were to do it again like the first time, at least having names on both sides of the tent would help, because identifying them based on like the tent color or who was there wasn't very easy to do. I thought that there was, I don't see this here, but there was definitely too much walk-up traffic at the radio booth. You know, it wasn't just people being sent to the wrong direction. We also had a lot of people coming up because I guess it just looked interesting and they wanted to talk about what kind of radios they should buy for their neighborhood. And they wanted to know questions about licensing and general stuff. And I was sending them to the PIO booth. I don't really know if they had information on radios there. I kind of wanted to be able to take a break and chat with people and, you know, share what was going on and, you know, give them pointers, but we had, you know, comms stacking up on both sides and I didn't want to miss anything come in and over the radio. So it was kind of stressful.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't give you the message. There was a full radio PIO table and we'll put signs up next time because you guys are outside the perimeter and so people feel just perfectly fine walking up and ambushing you.
Yeah, I know the ACS, like the sector net control tent had a lot of walk-ups. I figured they were answering a lot of questions.
We've used, excuse me a sec, this is Margaret. We used yellow tape to go around, set a boundary around the radio tent.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, yeah. Just something to learn. Another thing is some people brought what I thought were scripts at the time that wouldn't be on paper in a real scenario, and that's why I had kind of objected to them not being on the 213s. I thought, you know, somebody was supposed to be transcribing them, and they were just handing me what they were handed, and that they were supposed to be like reading it to somebody and putting it down on another form. But I guess they were actually things that like notes that they had or were given.
Yeah, actually, your radio assistant is supposed to be the one who is transferring to the 213.
Okay.
That's in their job role.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, she was tied up too.
Right.
I thought from a technical standpoint, instead of tying up the repeater for the exercise, we should just use low power simplex. I mean, it's good to test the repeater, but for the amount of traffic we were doing, it was kind of interfering with normal operations. And it wasn't really necessary since Ron was so close to me physically. We did have the interference and had to switch channels, but it did work out. we were able to communicate that over the air and make that change without metagaming any. And then again, for me, I wasn't clear what the name of the hub was from the start. I assumed that we were just going by Jefferson Hub, even though there wasn't a hub there. And once I had gotten that answer, I was able to clarify that again over the air and stay in the exercise. And then, yeah, I thought generally like the hub worked really well at the scale we're at, but it just really concerns me thinking that there's like 1 or 2, maybe 3 people that are interested in working my hub, and we have 1 tent. I have 1 tent at home, so it's going to be a completely different situation if we need to activate our hub. And I know you kind of answered this, but I think it would be valuable. I'm sure of all the hubs there are, I'm sure there are other hubs in our position, and it would probably be valuable to have a exercise where we actually stand up multiple hubs with 2 to 3 people and try to coordinate between the hubs while providing services locally.
That's what we've done all the past 7 years.
Okay. Well, I'm new to it.
Yeah. So that's normally what we do. This is the exception to go,
okay,
what does it look like when everything's running and we have everybody have an opportunity to see all these other positions, and how would you think about how you would grow your hub from exactly what you said? All of us have 1 tent and 1 table and 2 chairs,
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to go from that to whatever size you can deal with your volunteers and respond to your neighborhood? Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, Ann and I, in our next steps, this was good. This got everybody together. We sort of baseline. Next year, of course, we'll go back to everybody out in the field. You do your own hub, and we'll send you the list of scripts, and you pick what you want to put your hub through. And, but that's the next field thing. But be thinking about that, who wants to play, and who's so new that they want to go observe at somebody else's hub again before they play. So.
Yeah, I think it would be good to do more exercises. I think it'll get easier if we do it more often. The first one I did was 2019, and then
and then COVID, right?
Yeah, everything shut down.
Yeah,
so
I will tell you guys that Ann and I probably both put 200 hours into this exercise. It is a massive undertaking. And what we hope we have done this time is we've left you a playbook so that you guys can do, we can do some of the centralized things like the advertising and, work with ACS on the frequencies and all that, getting all that into the playbook, but you'll be the captains of your own ship in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I think the work you put into it really shows. Probably more went well than went wrong, and we just kind of didn't even notice. It was very, very good.
We're very happy. I mean, we think that this will work for our neighbors. That's the whole point, and yes, there's confusion, but my gosh, you guys were problem solving by the end of hour 2 on every one of these, imagine what you'd really be like on day 2.
Cindy, can I comment on this one as well?
Yes.
Sure. So echoing Matt's point earlier about repeaters and simplex, one of the takeaways that we had from ACS was that our post needs to be adjacent to the GMRS post. We really need to have a lot more interaction between those 2 radio services, and using the lowest power necessary would avoid any interference between them, any desensing. So it really needs to be a coordinated effort between those 2 or hopefully more operators. Also, that may help with the logging issue. If you don't have a message manager, then having consistent logging between the 2 posts would help. And in an actual event, we would hope to deploy as many canopies we can which have all the walls on them. We would want to avoid interacting with the public at all costs and only interact with the designated hub staff person who was bringing the messages in. We certainly would want to exclude general people out of it.
Yeah. Sure. And I was thinking from the small hub perspective, if I'm literally the only radio operator, is it kind of expected or a good idea for me to be in contact with ACS myself?
Let's save all the radio stuff for Catherine and I already talked. We definitely are going to have a better, like a real tabletop where we walk through these different steps. And what if your hub doesn't have any ACS personnel operating under ACS? What if you have a ham radio operator operating for the hub? You know, how does that look? So many, many tentacles to this octopus. Yeah. So right. I think that's the last one. Now, so Catherine, did you have anything else?
No, I'm going to send you in our summary debrief comments.
Okay. So on the screen is the, somebody's drawing, one of our actors drew this. I just thought it was amazing, of a way to mark the tents. I thought that was fabulous.
And I heard some stuff in the what we're, you know, just the layout, you know, closer facing in, greeter being kind of like the only point of entry, you know, block off the radio guys. So we've got a lot of inputs to help people with their individual suggestions. Everybody's got, like, some are in tennis courts, some are in basketball courts, some are in parks, some are in, you know, it's like everybody's got to think through what will work well. Is there anything else general in the setup that we haven't talked about already?
I mean, have you tried making, like, squaring the tents and into like a fortress and putting tape around them and just having public interacting people on the outside and everybody who's passing things and communicating with other hubs inside?
Madison Park is going to have a setup on Sunday, and it's just like that. They're putting all their resource and interactive stuff, and not interactive, but hub managed stuff inside the tennis court, and info and educator outside. So we'll see how that goes. So people are already there. Sarah's on, and they're already adapting, you know, some of the lessons we've learned.
Are they inviting us to come in, or is that just a private exercise?
They're brand new, so this is like their second meeting with their team. So
we don't mind.
Yeah, they don't mind. It's Sarah is running it. So if you want to send out to the hub captains, you know, I don't know that many would show up, but the first one they had was in a very small room. This one will be out in the park, so it shouldn't be so bad.
Good luck, Sarah. I'm excited for you.
It's just a little drill.
So go to the next slide. And what I heard is 4 separate work tabletops, one that's concentrated on volunteer coordinator, kind of medical, one that is around what goes in needs and resources. And it does also reach back out to what's in the volunteers and what's in info, right? So I don't know which order should come first, whether we need to resolve the needs and resources, and then we go to the volunteer coordinator. Ann and I can talk about that. The next one is in the needs and resources, filing improvements, just things to make the organization of information more efficient. And that might include information booth, you know, the flapping whiteboards or highlights or what we can do. And then one that is around the radios, you know, the radio communications and what goes to hub captains and priority messaging. We did not emphasize that at all in our setup, because really radio to us was just, here are going to come in some messages for you guys, because we don't have these 5 hubs we're all coordinating with. But it's always important to get that experience under everybody's belt. So 3 really, one of them is for the same booth, but it has a different focus than the integration. It's an internal process improvement. Did I miss any?
Cindy, another idea we had talked about is, how do we get everybody up to speed all the time? That where information goes to die, that issue.
Oh, say more.
The big information coming into the hub, like this road is down, this hospital is open, this pharmacy is open, that information, how does that get to everybody that needs to know it?
Yeah, I had that in the middle one, which is needs and resources versus volunteer versus info versus medical, you know, like that whole integration thing.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's in there.
Yeah. So that gives us plenty of stuff to work on in the winter. Who would like to be the point person for the volunteer discussion? Is there anybody interested? Ooh, I'm watching everybody back away from the screens. We'd really like to have some people become experts in these. You know, the more people we have who become subject matter experts, the better it is, so that we have people we can go to and go, do you remember what we decided? So we'll, you know, so the next one is, anybody want to lead the integration-y sort of issues? And then there's the radio issues, and then there's the internal filing process improvements. So we have 4 opportunities for people to, you know, help organize and imagine how we will work our way through those. And I know people remember Cindy has said succession planning, and, you know, I'm not, 2023 is my out year. So the better we get people lined up to do this. So we'll type up the notes and we'll say, these are the 4 workshops we're planning. We need a point person or a small committee to start thinking about how those would go together. Anna and I, of course, are helping, you know, but we're trying not to lead everything, which is how people learn, right? If it just lives in our brain, we're all in trouble.
Yeah.
Next steps, anybody else got next steps that I missed? Okay, I'm gonna do, somebody made a noise?
Yeah, I don't know if it's what you mean, next steps, but I think it would be good to also plan some exercises in like nighttime, winter weather. Like, it's not going to be fun, but we'll probably learn a lot. It's a good chance if something happens, it's not going to be sunny and dry and warm.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get anybody to bite on that. I mean, yeah, we're all recovering from this one. It's a little early to offer that.
Definitely not nighttime. I'm not going to be out there at night.
I know Matt wasn't around. We did a nighttime exercise, and it was good because everybody went, man, our flashlights and headlights don't work like we thought they would. But
yeah,
I think we need to incorporate our lessons learned first before we get to what's the next exercise.
We almost had a nice monsoon realistic scenario at Maple Leaf, and then the weather
did get windy.
Got lucky.
Yeah, we did. Sarah, did you? Now you're blowing your nose. Sarah, did you have something?
Well, the little one I'm going to do in Madison Park, with probably no community members walking by, but all of us will be there setting it up, will be October 21st, Thursday, you know, the Great Shakeout.
Oh,
it might be raining. We're going to do it from 4 to 6.
Oh, there you go, Matt. You'll get halfway dark. Okay. And I think Bob Edmondson will be out there, so you can see what he thinks of that when it's raining on his radio equipment.
It was his idea.
Yeah. So yes, we have not even gotten to what's our next exercise because we're still reeling from this one, you know. So is there anybody who has announcements that they need to make? I know that I wanted to get Sarah, she talked about her thing coming up on Sunday. Anybody else got an event we need to know of? Roosevelt's going to have a table at the light rail station grand opening on Saturday. So if you're one of those light rail junkies who's going to get on it and ride it all the way to the far end, make sure you get off at Roosevelt so you can see if you can find their booth. Anybody else got anything scheduled? Anybody got anything everybody else should hear about around the room?
Can I ask Ann Bond, is there an outreach event coming up in October?
There will be, but we have not chosen a date yet, but there will be one, we hope, later in the month of October.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I know ACS has got some exercises, and we'll make sure you guys get information. Sometimes those are fun if they do a field one to go watch, because you know you didn't get to see anything of what went on since you were all so busy. Anne, anything else that you can think of that we're missing?
I can't think of anything.
We're going to have a deep dive. Anne and I are interviewing the Red Cross to talk about their reunification program tomorrow. So we got through everything we needed on the drill. So I know that won't be part of the deep dive. So reunification, or if they're not ready, there might be some other topic, but we think we will definitely have a deep dive in October. And I think that's all we got. Anybody else? Is there anybody left?
Guys, for that stellar effort. That was really outstanding.
It was a lot of fun, actually.
It was fun.
I learned a lot, both what I know and what I don't know.
Good, good.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you both so
All
much.
right,
Good night.
Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Anne, are you still on?
Cindy.
Yep. I'm, you know, I have, we're still being recorded. Is it quick?
Oh, okay. I'll email you.
Okay. Sorry. I'm going to have to close my computer to get the recording to stop. Okay.